The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
Hacksaw, the best tool for dismembering a body. Can you be charged with murder without a body? Google search. Disposing of a body in the trash. Google search.
We did find a couple bottles of hydrogen peroxide as well as a knife in a kitchen cabinet. The screening test for blood was positive on this blade.
Doctor, is this the photographing of the piece of metal that you spoke of? Doctor, did you recognize any writing on Exhibit 188?
Yes, there was an engraving of Gucci on one side.
I don't want to hide anything from you because if that could lead to finding my wife sooner, that's the most important thing. I wouldn't hurt my wife. I love my wife.
One of the last people to see Anna Walshe alive is expected to be taking the stand this morning. We are looking ahead to this key witness's testimony this morning. Plus, brand new body camera footage of Luigi Mangione. We're taking you to the intense moment when police confronted the accused assassin at his table at McDonald's. And Family Matters star Darius McCrary is out of jail as he's awaiting sentencing. But will these charges impact his Hollywood career? We'll discuss. And it has been 45 years since John Lennon was killed. We'll talk about the cultural shockwave that his murder sent across the world. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Wednesday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some Court? It's that time where we get you all warmed up and ready to go for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. We put together an awesome show for you, so let's get it started. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. A picture is worth 1,000 words. But what's a video worth? Murder suspect Brian Walshe caught on low security footage on January 4th, 2023, the day that he reported his wife, Anna, missing. Here he's buying a trash can, and then he looks directly into the camera, smirking and slicking back his hair. I wonder what he was thinking at that moment. If I was prosecuting him and he got up on the stand, I would ask him that question. Except the way I would phrase it would be special. I would say, "You sure look pleased here, sir. You were happy about your wife's death." And he has to agree with that, because if he says he was sad, you say, "Well, you don't look too busted up here, sir. You look incredibly composed." Makes it hard to believe you're the kind of guy who could dismember your wife's body. I would say, "You don't look like that guy, but you are that guy." Shows us we can't judge a book by its cover, right? He would have to agree with that. And then I would say, as you sit here today in your very sharp suit, you don't look like you're capable of committing a murder. Then I would take a long pause and I would look at the jury. My friends, I think he has to take the stand. His testimony is the only way that his defense team can introduce the fact that he found Anna in their bed unresponsive. If he doesn't testify to that, it doesn't come in as a fact in evidence, and the jury cannot consider it. So I predict he will take the stand. I predict he will be very uncomfortable, and I predict the cross, well, it should be epic. That's my opening statement on this Wednesday morning. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
The state alleges that Kevin Ellis, Tracy Grist, and Catherine Rastelli conspired to murder Matt, who was Catherine's husband. In broad strokes, the state's allegation is that Catherine and Tracy worked together to lure Matt into driving to Utah and to entering Tracy's home where Kevin was waiting armed with a handgun. Almost immediately after Matthew arrived, Kevin shot and killed him.
In Utah, we've got a hearing for defendant Kevin Ellis expected this morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. He's accused of shooting and killing his brother-in-law, Matthew Rastelli. You might remember this case. It's very similar to the Adelson murder plot. In New York, court is dark today in the suppression hearing for accused assassin Luigi Mangione. Court's going to resume tomorrow. We'll keep you updated on that case. And in Massachusetts, we've got the Commonwealth expected to rest its case in chief today in the murder trial of Brian Walshe. And that is, of course, your top story this Wednesday. Testimony set to start in less than an hour. We're expected to hear from Anna Walsh's former boss. He celebrated New Year's Eve at the Walshe home with both Anna and Brian right before she disappeared. His name is Jem Mutlu, and he's expected to be the last witness that the Commonwealth calls. And he says there was no indication of an impending tragedy. We heard of Jem Mutlu previously when Anna Walsh's lover, William Fasto, was on cross. Let's take a look back together now.
And you were introduced to her through a mutual friend, Jem Mutlu?
Correct.
And Mr. Mutlu is also in the real estate business? Did you ever go to dinner with Jem and hold hands with Anna, flirt with her in front of Jem? No. So you talked to him after?
Yes.
And you told him after that you were in a romantic relationship?
He certainly knew after that we were in a romantic relationship.
Because you told him?
Yes, I believe so.
But you don't know if you told him when you and Anna were dating?
I cannot recall if I told him before or after.
All right, so how will this upcoming witness affect the Commonwealth's case? And the burning question, will Brian Walshe take the stand? Let's tackle those questions. Let's bring in our legal eagles now. We have attorneys Rick Grundy and Franz Borghardt on the show. Good morning to you, gentlemen. All right, so let's tackle these one by one. So in terms of what this witness, Jem Mutlu, is going to do today, being the last person who can say definitively that Anna Walshe was alive on New Year's Eve, how might he advance the Commonwealth's case? Franz Borghardt, would you start us off, please?
Julie, if the circumstances haven't changed that he chopped up a body and disposed of it, I don't think it's really anything more than window dressings at this point. We have a defendant that has pled guilty to disposal of a body, has internet searches. All of this at this point is just the icing on the cake. So I don't know that it fundamentally weakens or strengthens the case as a whole. I think that ultimately, as you said in opening statements, if he doesn't testify, his goose is cooked. And frankly, if he testifies, his goose is probably cooked too. So I'm not going to be moved one way or another at this point.
Yeah, it sounds like you got your mind made up, Franz. And I don't blame you. The evidence is really, really damning against this guy. Rick Grundy, let's talk about that witness, Jem Mutlu. How do you think he's going to advance things for the Commonwealth? And part two of that question, is he a good witness to end the case on?
I don't know if he's a great witness to end the case on. I tend to agree with Franz. I think it's going to go middle of the road. The Commonwealth can present this person. He's going to be shown to see my understanding of this relationship as I experienced it that evening was flawed, because I find out afterwards that, in fact, she was involved in an affair with somebody that I know. On the defense side, they're going to hearken to the part of, I saw nothing. It looked like we were having the lovely evening that the defendant described. The thing that I disagree with Franz on, and I think it's there. I think the jury will get over it, but Larry Tipton's going to get up in his closing and he's going to say, my client is loathsome. You'd be a fool not to see that based on what he's admitted to. But to a near certainty, was she murdered by my client? Now, that sets the road for a jury who will likely get over that hump, but Larry Tipton knows it also is going to leave open a big appeal. I think the strongest evidence, quite frankly, on that aspect is that Google search. Can you be found guilty of murder without a body? I think if I'm the prosecutor, I'm hammering home on that as a confession of this defendant that he committed murder.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you, Rick. I was saying yesterday on the show, that's my favorite of the searches if I'm a prosecutor. Second favorite would be, can you identify a body with broken teeth? Why is he asking about broken teeth? Did he punch her in the mouth? Franz, what do you think about that search and how it may relate back to what happened to Anna?
It's my understanding, not from personal experience, but it's my understanding that teeth are one of the parts of the body that doesn't dispose as easily as other parts, Julie. And it's unfortunate that I know that, but it is what it is. I think that that's what that search is about. And I think that I just don't see how they get over the hurdle. The searches are just the icing. To me, it's a good case for the Commonwealth. I mean, I would love to have this case as a prosecutor, and I'm imagining how I would close my case out, Julie. And the way I would close my case out is I would present the court minutes and have them read in that he pled guilty to disposing the body of someone he was supposed to have cared about and loved. Because that's what you do when you love somebody. You find them, they're deceased, and you dispose of their body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he loved her enough to do that, right? You're right, Franz. I want to show you both a little bit of what we know from Jem Mutlu, this witness who's coming up, supposed to be a big witness, or so that's the buzz at the courthouse. So this is when he spoke with police. He described that New Year's Eve with Anna and Brian as being very festive. He said Brian made an elaborate meal. I guess he's a chef. He said we hugged, celebrated. There was a lot of food, a lot of looking forward to the new year. I don't have my glasses on, so looking at the teleprompter. Let's look at the next slide here. He says he described Anna and Brian as individually and together very impactful in his life. He said that somehow just the story just wasn't adding up. Wonder what he means by that. Rick Grundy, do you ask him about that? What wasn't adding up for him?
I think you're in a position there where you don't ask the question if you don't know the answer, and you got to make a judgment call there. I think the idea is, does this hook up with information he developed after that night that it didn't hook up? I think this witness coincides well with the theory of the Commonwealth that they may want to pursue, and that is they were getting through this evening. Brian thought we were having a good time, things were good, and then we have these texts coming in just after midnight from her undercover lover, and the idea being that he discovers that after Jem has left the premises, and that's what leads to the murder and the dismemberment.
Right, Rick. Franz, tell me, does it help with the defense at all? In their theory that, she suddenly dies after this delicious meal, does it help them that this friend of both of theirs doesn't pick up on anything, any animosity, anything weird?
Well, yeah, absolutely. The argument becomes, well, there was no animosity. You didn't pick up on it. There was no animosity, and he loved her, and he would never kill her. He would just dispose her body.
Yes. Rick Grundy, before we have to let you go and get off to court, tell me, do you think that, and we're nearing the end of the case, so they've said this is going to be the last witness. In your opinion, and you used to serve in that office, and you ran the homicide unit in that office that's prosecuting this case, do you think that they have proven that he committed a murder?
I think the evidence there is they have met their burden to present it to the jury. Again, as a prosecutor, and Julie, I know you know this, you are looking for the flaws, you are staying awake at night, you are, particularly a case like this is more taxing on the prosecutor because it does have a facial value of a wagon. It's just going to steer this thing into the barn. How can you miss? And there is that one outstanding aspect of it of proving the actual murder. I think that evidence is there. Again, it's going to be a job of the prosecutor to build that wall. The bricks are out there, build it, put it together, make the connections that the jury may not have made by the amount of time between witnesses and everything. Pull all that together. It's there. It should hold. But again, Larry Tipton's got an eye on an appeal here, and I guarantee you he's had that conversation with his client. We're probably not going to get by this jury, but if we can leave this hanging out here with respect to the slim evidence of him actually committing the murder, maybe we can go to an appellate court, maybe we get some action there, and maybe you get a second degree down the road on a plea.
Maybe. Rick Grundy, Franz Borghardt, great discussion with you both. Thank you so much. Coming up next here on Opening Statements, here's what we've got.
I'm here on special appearance
Specially appearing for who?
I'm here on special appearance.
Sir, who are you specially appearing for?
I'm specially appearing for Darius McCrary.
The man known famously for playing Eddie Winslow on Family Matters is out of jail this morning. We're looking ahead to Darius McCrary's sentencing and his future career in Hollywood. Plus, cops confronting Luigi Mangione in McDonald's. We got some brand new body camera footage to show you next.
The Court TV podcast will return.
Sir, did you care to respond before the court rules on your motion?
There's no injured party, Your Honor. Oh, I'd like to also say I'm here in special appearance.
Specially appearing for who?
I'm here on special appearance.
And when you say you were here pro per and special appearance, who are you?
I'm an authorized signatory thereof of the estate and the executor of the estate.
Who's the estate?
The McCrary estate.
No longer representing the state of McCrary, Family Matters star Darius McCrary is trending this morning as he was released from custody ahead of his sentencing. He was released from the Oakland County Jail in Michigan on Monday after he pleaded no contest to 5 felony charges, all relating to an ongoing child support case. After his release, McCrary's lawyer told TMZ this, saying, quote, "Over the last 4 years, Mr. McCrary's fight for justice and truth has been painted as an attempt to shirk his responsibilities to his child. The resolution reached Monday makes it clear that family does matter and that it always has." Sentencing for McCrary is set for February 9th. He's looking at a maximum of 4 years behind bars. We're asking this morning, do you believe that family does matter to McCrary? Let's bring in our guest. In the studio with me, the senior editor at Gossip, Jason Jolly, is here, and remotely criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Franz Borghardt. Great to have you both here to talk about this. Of course. So Jason, let me start with you. The question, does family matter to the Family Matters star, in your opinion?
Family Matters was such an institution of the 90s. I'm a Gen Xer. Yes. I grew up watching TGIF.
Yes,
and beyond TGIF, there was a time period of a golden renaissance of, black families on TV. Family Matters and In the House and the Steve Harvey Show and on and on and on. And so we grew up feeling nostalgic about these shows that gave us so much, that gave us insight into black family dynamics in different ways that we hadn't seen before. So we feel a type of way about Eddie Winslow. He means something to us. But at the same time, the things that he's being accused of are pretty heinous. And, it looks like he's going to have to suffer the consequences for some of the things that he's being accused of, that he's pleaded, no contest to. Right.
It's so tough when you see a character that's beloved and you feel like you grew up with. I'm with you. TGIF was every Friday, and you feel like Eddie Winslow. You went through the life lessons with him
you
that he was
learn
learning.
These things. Yeah.
And then here you see, okay, that's a character.
Correct.
In real life, he's got some
Darius
problems.
McCrary is a human being.
Right.
And he's had a downfall of sorts, and that could be attributed to a lot of things. He's openly talked about his drug use. In his first divorce, he talked about the judge said that he had to have visitation monitoring, and he wanted him to take drug and alcohol counseling, things like that. So clearly he's gone through a lot in his life. Hopefully this will be the thing that sets him on the right course.
Right. We know he was pro se there for a while. Franz, I want to take a look with you back at the last time we saw him appear in court before the most recent plea on Monday. Here we go.
Based on the fact that the 50th District has completely continued to violate all of my rights, my 4th, my 5th, my 14th Amendment, my right to due process is constantly trampled, and I've figured out why, because under due process clause of the 14th Amendment, personal judgment is void if rendered by the court, which has no jurisdiction over the defendant. That's Penmore versus Neff, 95 U.S. 714, 24L, ED 565, and Michigan has no jurisdiction. Before we proceed, we need to establish jurisdiction.
Tell you what, not bad for a pro se defendant. Franz, we know that he did get counsel with the public defender's office for the most recent resolution, that no contest plea to 1 count of absconding bond and 4 counts of failure to support. Maximum penalty is 4 years behind bars. How do you think things are going to land when he's sentenced on February 9th?
So all of these deadbeat dad laws, and that's essentially what we're talking about. These are laws that are criminalizing not paying child support. And it's not just dads. Moms can be prosecuted for it too. All of these laws are designed in such a way that we want the parent to pay their child support. Nobody wants to put someone in jail for not paying their child support, because at the end of the day, guess who doesn't get child support? The kids don't get child support if he's in jail. That said, this is the consequence of actions. And I suspect he won't get maxed out, Julie. I think he'll get some jail time. And maybe as a part of the jail time, maybe some back in probation that involves some treatment and monitoring. But ultimately, if he doesn't get his life right and doesn't pay his child support, we're just going to be spinning wheels. And he's just going to be back in the court after he does whatever time he has to do.
Right, Franz. Yeah, we want him to be working again to pay that child support. And speaking of working again, let's go back in time for a moment. Let's reminisce when he was Eddie Winslow on Family Matters.
Wow, Edo, what luck. The girl of your dreams just dropped in.
Hey, baby. Home now.
There he is alongside Jaleel White. Darius McCrary was a fixture on that show, very popular in the 90s and still today on many streaming platforms. And so we're wondering, with these recent negative headlines, can he make a comeback in Hollywood? Or is he going to be blacklisted for this because it's a case involving children, his children? Ja, what do you think about his career?
I hope that he can make a comeback. Clearly, he's a talented brother. He can act. He's funny. He's charismatic. The things that have taken him away from that have clearly led him down this path. But Hollywood likes nothing more than a good comeback story. And to Fran's point, if he can get his life in order and he can show that he can be the father that Carl Winslow was to him,
yes,
hopefully people will see that and say, okay, this is a guy that had a tough time and he went through some tough times, he got some consequences, and he figured it out, and now he's back on the right side of it.
Yeah, you're right. I bet people are rooting for him.
We're definitely rooting for him.
Yes.
This isn't the type of situation where, even though, again, he's been accused of some bad things, but this isn't the type of situation where we're talking about dark crimes.
Right.
These are life mistakes that it cost his children and cost his former partners, but this is something that he can find his way back from. He just has to want that.
Right. Ja, that's such an important distinction, because we see, and Franz knows so many cases here at Court TV where children are horrifically abused or killed. This is nothing like that. Right. This is just a failure to pay dollars, when court ordered. So thank goodness it's not worse. So that's very important. Franz, tell me, with respect to the sentencing date and him working, if you're his counsel, we know he's out on bond. What do you think? Do you try to get him jobs or something to present to the court when you show up in February? What do you think?
So in a perfect world, I would try to get the arrears, the back owed child support, as paid off as I can. If he could come up with hey, it's going to take me X amount of time to pay it off and he's working, it sure is more difficult to put him in jail because, again, who are you ultimately punishing at that point? You're punishing the children. So if I'm representing him, I want jobs lined up. I want him to have already paid some of the arrears, the back owed money, and I want a plan in place. And I want to tell the judge and the government, hey, this is our plan to make these children whole. This is our plan to get him and to keep him sober so that he can be not only a productive member of society, but a good dad. And look, sober dads make the best dads sometimes. So Again, a good plan in place with some success under his belt is the recipe for not an incarceration sentence. And hopefully his attorneys can develop that plan.
Yes, boy, that's a great plan, Franz. Thank you. And Jai, you touched on this earlier, how you said he had some substance abuse problems in the past. How present has he been on social media, recently before this incident cropped up? Have you seen anything that was positive, or did it seem like he was still struggling?
Yeah, so I perused his Instagram page, and I saw some videos of him and what I believe was his niece and nephew. They were in a Waymo. I think they were in San Francisco or the Bay Area somewhere, and they're in a Waymo, and he seemed lucid. He was kind of joking with the kids, hey, we're in a driverless car, and we're going on this place, and the kids are looking kind of like, I don't know about this driverless car thing. Yeah. So it seemed like he was lucid, he was present, and he was essentially fathering, doing what he should do for his children with his other family members, with his younger family members. So I believe that there is still hope for him. I hope that there's a producer, director, writer watching this segment right now who says, hey, I want to help this guy out. And I know that Hollywood, getting roles and auditioning can be difficult. But again, to Fran's point, this is about the children. And so this isn't about making Darius McCrary a huge movie star, TV star again. This is about getting a talented working actor back into the system so that he can take care of his responsibilities as a man, as a father. And I hope and pray that that works out for him.
So well said. Jason, John Lee, great having you in the studio. Franz Borghardt, great insight from you remotely. Thanks so much. Coming up next, where were you when John Lennon was killed? We're taking a look back at the iconic musician's legacy and the lasting impact of his shocking murder. Plus,
what's your name? Mark. What is it? Mark. Mark? Yes, sir. Mark what? Sorry. Someone called tonight. They thought you were suspicious.
accused assassin Luigi Mangione caught on camera giving police a fake name. So will this body camera footage tip the scales of justice in his upcoming murder trial?
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Welcome back. 45 years ago this week, we lost music legend John Lennon. John Lennon was gunned down in front of his apartment building in New York City back on December the 8th of 1980. This happened as he was getting out of a limousine with his wife, Yoko Ono. The gunman was 25-year-old Mark David Chapman. He remained at the scene and he did not even try to flee. He was arrested by police shortly after the incident. He's still locked up in prison and goes up again for the possibility of parole in the year 2027. Now, fans flocked to the scene of the shooting after hearing the news, and it's safe to say that Lennon's murder still has a very profound impact on music and on culture to this day. Let's talk about this some more. Let's bring in Emmy Award-winning music journalist, the former editor-in-chief of Vibe and Spin magazines, Alan Light. Alan, good morning to you. Thank you for being on the program. Let's talk about the significance of let's start with the assassination. What impact did John Lennon's killing have on society, in your view?
Yeah, I think that, there are obviously multiple levels to this loss. First of all, it's just impossible to believe that we're talking about 45 years since John Lennon was murdered when he was only with us for 40 years, only 40 years old when he was assassinated. In addition to just the personal loss that so many people felt, the loss of a musician who had meant so much to so many and was just beginning this return and new chapter in his career after taking a hiatus, coming back and releasing a new album and talking about touring. It took all of that away from us. But I think in a broader sense, it really represented the end of a generation's dream. It really stood for the loss of the 60s generation idealism, the world that the Beatles were trying to create. Remember that this happened just a month after Ronald Reagan's election to the presidency and a real sense of a change in the mood in America. And I think a really different sense of limitations and cynicism and moving on to a different time in our culture, a different relationship to what rock and roll might or might not be able to achieve and the limitations of that. I think everybody felt that so profoundly when this tragedy happened.
Yes, yes, beautifully said, Alan. Take us back in time. Before John Lennon was killed, what was life like for him? Would you kind of set the scene for us? What was he up to, professionally and personally?
Yeah, it's such a fascinating moment for him to think about, because after initially, being the leader and founder of what became the Beatles, the most important, most beloved, most influential band of all time. When the band broke up in 1970, he had a solo career for about 5 years, and then he and Yoko gave birth to Sean, to their son, and he essentially retired, took a lengthy hiatus, and for 5 years stayed home, felt that he was not around to raise his first son, Julian, that he and Yoko had issues conceiving. And when they finally had this boy, he wanted to stay home, be there, be present, and help raise this kid. So he was taking him to school and baking bread and living a house husband's life. But he was just at this time feeling, okay, 5 years old, it's time that I can start to do other things. He was feeling, a creative pull, and put out his first album in 5 years. The Double Fantasy album had just come out. He'd done a lot of press, a lot of promotion, very excited to be back in the mix in the pop music world, was talking about touring, which is something he had never done as a solo artist ever, had not done since 1966 when the Beatles stopped touring. So this was a real re-entry, re-blossoming of creativity for John. He was recording a lot. The night that he was killed, they were coming back from the studio where they were working on a song of Yoko's. He had recorded a guitar solo for that night. So there was a lot of interest and excitement about, where was John going to go from here now that he was making music and appearing in public again?
Yes. It's so interesting, Alan, because as you know, he had done so much and accomplished so much in those 40 years that he was on Earth. But yet, when you think about this moment in time, as you're describing it, he still had so much more to do. There was so much more that he could have done. And when you think about the promise he had, right?
And I think what's especially interesting is this is somebody who, look, the Beatles revolutionized music in every way. They created the idea of what a rock band is. They created the idea that a band writes its own songs. They created the idea that a band was an evolving, developing, experimental entity that would change from project to project. Every single band owes a debt to what that band did during their career. But specifically with John, in addition to writing some of the most magnificent pop songs of all time and having one of the most phenomenal voices in pop music history, what he really did that was so different was write about himself and his own life in a way that no one had done. There was a personal exposure. He was vulnerable. He wrote about his family. He wrote about his fears, even as far back as songs like Help and In My Life. Nobody was writing songs like that in 1965. And with the Double Fantasy album and turning 40, he said, I want to start writing about being an adult. I want to start writing about adult relationships and having kids and things that pop stars really don't address because it's usually such an adolescent format. And so this guy who had revealed so much about himself and his feelings and his family, was very aware that he was entering a different chapter in his life and wanted to put that into his art. So where that was going to go was, potentially, a limitless future to show how you grow up and still be a rock star and still be so true to yourself.
Right, Alan. He was so beloved, which I think made his assassination all the more stunning. And the man who assassinated him, Mark David Chapman, seemed like a fan. John Lennon has signed an autograph for him right before the shooting. Tell us a little bit about that, please, Alan.
Yeah. what is there that one says about somebody who commits such a senseless act? But he was, a disturbed individual. Obviously, he was an obsessive fan, Beatles fan, who was fixated on John Lennon and had convinced himself, for whatever reasons, that John had betrayed him, had betrayed his fans, had sold out, had turned on the principles and the beliefs that he had talked so much about to the world, and traveled from Hawaii to New York City with this idea that John needed to be stopped, needed to be eradicated. He spent several days outside of John's apartment in the Dakota. As you mentioned, earlier that same day, John had signed an autograph. There's a very famous and chilling photo of the two of them together while John is signing this album, for the guy who would turn out to be his assassin. And Julie, as you noted at the top of the show, he shot John. He sat down on the curb. He was reading Catcher in the Rye, which was this book that he said was guiding his thoughts, and waited for the police to come. They asked, "Do you know what you did?" And he said, "I just shot John Lennon." So there's no, there's no mystery or chase involved. And how do we understand the motivations of something like that? But
Just awful.
As we all know, it's something we're all too familiar with at this point in our history.
Right. Thank goodness he's still behind bars. I, for one, certainly hope he stays there forever. Alan Light, it's been so great talking.
I think it's too.
With
I think there's so much rage still against this guy that I think it would be very dangerous to him to ever put him back in the world. So I don't really see that happening.
Yeah, good. We'll have to leave it there for time. But Alan, thank you for all of the insights you shared with us. And of course, we want to mention the new book that you have out now. It's called Don't Stop, Why We Still Love Fleetwood Mac Rumors. Alan Light, thank you kindly. Still to come here on Opening Statements.
Yes, sir. There you go. Put your mask down for? Yeah, sure. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Will accused assassin Luigi Mangioni's arrest video in McDonald's tip the scales of justice? That's next. Plus, a live look at the courtroom in Massachusetts. Oh, we're looking at the clock, not the fan. That's a pretty clock. We're getting ready for testimony to resume in Brian Walshe's murder trial. The last witness is on deck.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Welcome back. Now what's tipping the scales of justice? The Luigi Mangione suppression hearing, of course. We have brand new video of the assassination of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Take a look at this. Here's the new video. There it is on your screen, the new angle. We also have a focus during the suppression hearing of what happened in the McDonald's.
Yes, sir. There you go. Put your mask down for? Yeah, sure. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. What's your name? Mark. What is it? Mark. Mark? Yes, sir. Mark what? Rosario. Rosario? Someone called tonight. They thought you were suspicious. Oh, I'm sorry. Is your ID on you? Yes, sir. Thanks. I thought she looked like someone, you okay, good?
And police also found this in Luigi Mangioni's bag. The gun, silencer, and a journal, all found in there, all looking to be suppressed by the defense team. We'll let you know what happens in the hearing, but let's dig in on these new elements. I want to bring in retired NYPD detective Dan Murphy, also the co-host of the Gold Shield Show. Dan, great to have you on the program. Let's look at that video, and I'll have you just kind of tell us what you're noticing, the new angle of him, allegedly him, on the street in Manhattan, firing at United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Now, we can't see a face of the shooter here, but what do you notice about this shooter?
You know, he has done his best to mirror other people in the past who try to hide their face and try to lurk in the shadows, and he did it early in the morning. In Manhattan, at a time like that in the morning, you can walk around like that. Nobody pays any attention to you. And he didn't raise any suspicion among the few people that were probably on the street. But he laid in wait. He was doing what some people do when they want to kill someone. They lay in wait. They wait for him. And then he emerges from the shadows and takes his shot.
It's just chilling. Dan, let me direct your attention to the video in the McDonald's. We noticed these officers kind of pass by the table, make it look like they're going to the restroom, but then they don't. They go to try to get the ID. What do you think about that police work here?
I think it's actually fairly cautious. If they had, and I don't know what the call came in as, but I believe it came in as the person looks like the suspect from the high-profile killing in Manhattan. Now, if you're a police officer and you receive that over your radio, possible suspect wanted for murder in Manhattan, a high-profile one, sitting in a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, you have an obligation first to go approach the person. And they do that, and they're right to ask him for identification. They ask to see his face. He complies. All things he could have said no to. He could have tried saying no to. But at the end of the day, the person has to be investigated. The officers have to ask for identification. They have to positively ID the person, because you can't let someone just get away with murder and slip through your fingers because you don't want to be discourteous to them by asking them for identification. It seems to me they did that in a very polite, very respectful manner, and he seemed to be compliant at that point.
Great points, Dan. Let's talk about the search of the bag. We know that's at issue. Do you see anything wrong with how the officers searched the bag incident to his arrest?
Incident to arrest, you're allowed to search anything a person has on their body or anything they're carrying with them. It's called search incident to lawful arrest. You're allowed to do that. You have to do that. It's an inventory search. I'm bringing you into custody. Whatever you have with you has to come into custody as well because it's your belongings. Now, in this case, they had to search the bag because it was with him. It was sitting right in him. It was in his custody, under his control. So finding the weapon, in my estimation, in my experience, the weapon will be included as evidence. I don't see how you could disinclude it. It's not an illegal, unlawful search. At that point, the officers are simply doing what they do each and every time someone is placed under arrest.
Really sharp analysis from you. Dan Murphy, at the end of the day, do you think that we're going to see the gun and the journal coming into evidence that the judge is going to agree with you and with me that this search was lawful?
I do. I think it is lawful. I don't see anything done improperly. It's not like they broke into a residence to get it. It's not like they did a search without a warrant. This type of search is common standard police procedure accepted by the courts. And these types of hearings, excuse me, happen all the time with cases like this. These are exclusionary. They want to try to rule out evidence. The defense always that makes this motion.
Right.
And so this is the kind of thing that I think you're going to see all this evidence go in, because in my estimation, it was
to end on. You're so right. I'm so sorry we're out of time. Dan Murphy, you're wonderful. Thank you kindly. Be right back. That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.